Hi, this video will be discussing the Gram staining technique. Let's get started. To start off, the Gram staining technique was developed by the bacteriologist or someone who studies bacteria, Hans Christian Gram, and it is used to identify if the bacteria that we're dealing with is Gram positive or Gram negative. Before you start the Gram staining technique, you'll most likely be given a slide and bacterial culture. On the slide, you'll place a small drop of water in the middle. Then you'll use an inoculating loop to collect some of the bacteria, and you'll initially put it where the water is and then smear it all over the slide. And then you let this dry. Once it's dry, you'll take the slide and place it against a Bactel incinerator for about 5 to 10 seconds and place it on it sort of like this. And the side that has the bacteria should be facing you. And we do this to heat fix the smear. In other words, we do it so that the bacteria will remain attached to the slide. However, if the bacteria that you're given contains a capsule, then it's not ideal to heat fix because then it'll destroy the bacteria. With that done, you can now start the Gram staining process. Although it's no longer here, we know that the bacteria is on the slide. It's just we can't see it yet. So for this first row, to the naked eye, it looks blank. We've already put the bacteria on the slide. However, because we haven't done anything, the bacteria are colorless and we can't see it. So to start the staining process, you're going to get crystal violet and you place it all over the slide. All of the bacteria is going to be stained purple. Whether the bacteria is Gram positive or Gram negative, it's going to be stained purple. You're going to have the slide covered with the crystal violet for about a minute. Once a minute passes, you rinse the slide off with water. After that step, you'll add iodine onto the slide and you'll let it sit on the slide for a minute and then you'll rinse that off with water as well. The next step is the decolorization step, which is when you use alcohol to wash off the slide. By applying alcohol to the slide, what this does is that for the Gram positive bacteria, they remain purple in color. However, for the Gram negative bacteria, the purple, the crystal violet, gets washed off. So that's why it's called the decolorization step, because the Gram negative bacteria end up getting decolorized. And then the last thing is applying the saffron dye. After applying the saffron dye, you let it sit for about a minute and you wash that off with water. Then you'd blot dry the slide, which is simply taking the slide and drying it with blotting paper. So then when you look under the microscope, you'll see that for the Gram positive bacteria, they're going to be purple in color, and for the Gram negative bacteria, they'll appear red in color. So to recap, at the end of the Gram staining, your Gram positive bacteria should be purple when you look at it under the microscope, and your Gram negative bacteria should be red when you look at it under the microscope. And an easy way to remember this is that Gram positive has a lot of peptidoglycan and it ends up looking purple. So PPP, Gram positive, lots of peptidoglycan, and it turns up purple. Let's go over the Gram staining process again. What's happening in this first row is that we've applied the bacteria onto the slide and we've heat fixed it. So with that done, we can start the Gram staining by applying crystal violet onto the slide. And the application of the crystal violet is considered to be the primary stain because all of the bacteria get stained purple. You let the dye sit for a minute, you wash it off with water, and then you apply iodine. And the reason we add iodine is to enhance the crystal violet stain. So after you apply the iodine, you let it sit for a minute and you wash it off. After you wash it off, the bacteria is still going to be purple in color. So that's why I have not created a separate row for this iodine step. But when you're doing the Gram staining, you of course need to add iodine right after you've washed off the crystal violet. The reason we add iodine is to enhance the crystal violet stain. What do I mean by that? So when you add iodine, what this does is it forms a complex with the crystal violet dye molecules. and this helps the gram-positive bacteria sustain or hold on to the purple dye better. So when you go to the decolorization step, the gram-positive will still remain purple, while the gram-negative bacteria will have their color, the purple, stripped of them. In the next video, I'll talk more about this step. But for now, all you need to know is that after you apply your crystal violet, you let it sit for a minute, you wash it off with water, you then apply your iodine, you let it sit for a minute, you wash it off with water, and then you go on to the next step, which is the decolorization step, or the wash with alcohol. So after we wash the slide with alcohol, the gram-positive bacteria will still maintain their purple color, while the gram-negative bacteria will have the purple washed off. After washing with alcohol, you rinse the slide off with water. Then you apply the saffron dye. After applying the saffron, the gram-positive bacteria will remain purple in color, while the gram-negative bacteria will take on the red color of the saffron. Before ending this video, I'm going to discuss some things that I think you should keep in mind. So when you're doing the gram staining technique, make sure you don't apply too much crystal violet. If you apply too much crystal violet, when you go on to decolorize and then apply the saffron stain, your gram-negative bacteria will appear purple. Also make sure that you don't wash the slide with too much alcohol, because doing so may strip the gram-positive bacteria of its color, and so when the saffron dye is applied, the gram-positive bacteria ends up looking red instead of purple. You may get some false results if the bacteria that you're staining are old or have weak cell walls. That's it for this video. I hope it helps. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.